Every year I make the same old pumpkin, but I'm never happy with it. So this year I'm gonna try surface carving, and I'm going to do it without using any special tools, because that's cheating. The initial steps are the same as with a normal pumpkin carving. So cut the hole in the head with a little notch so that the two parts are easy to align later. Actually, I don't know. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but I've also seen people cut holes in the bottom so that you don't have this cut line on the top, and because you just pick it up and place it on a candle. Because if you've ever tried to lower a lit candle in a pumpkin, you know how painful of an experience that can be. Then it's time to get your hands dirty and your pumpkins clean. And it's better to remove more than less, because if any of the pumpkin guts are still there, they will start to rot, which doesn't make the most charming smell. And this is where things get a bit different, because we're not gonna cut any holes on the pumpkin. But Ralph, how is the light gonna get through? Well, I'm glad you asked. The skin of a pumpkin is opaque, but the flesh does let some light through. So if you carve away the skin, that should be enough to let some light escape the pumpkin through the flesh. I've now got a pumpkin that has a hole in the bottom and has been cleaned, but before we can carve it, we need to pick a design. I've gone for a character from the most Halloween TV show ever, but I'm not going to tell you who it is. You have to guess in the comments. And I'm first going to draw it on a piece of paper, and then I'll worry about how to transfer it onto the pumpkin later. The first clue is that my character is a detective. Sort of a detective. He solves mysteries that involves ghosts and monsters. Now, I'm not sure why he chose this profession, because everything seems to scare him. He does love a good snack. And he can walk on 2 legs, but he can also walk on 4 legs. It's not an easy one. I've just realized that I'm probably going to use the final pumpkin in the thumbnail, so you probably already know who the character is. But for those of you who forgot, I'm curious to know who you thought the character is. Drumroll please. My character is Scooby-Doo. Can we just take a moment to appreciate this beautiful sketch of Scooby-Doo before well, it's not looking good for sketch Scooby-Doo. To transfer the sketch, I taped it to the pumpkin and poked lots of little holes in it. And after that, it was just a question of connecting the dots on the pumpkin. And I heard somewhere that you can use a permanent marker for this, because the skin of the pumpkin is waxy, which means the permanent marker should just wipe right off. This is complete fake news, because the permanent marker will not rub off and will just ruin your pumpkin. So you're better off using something like a highlighter. The drawing is on the pumpkin, and it has so many little details, but I've never done this before, and I only have one shot at this. So first, I'm going to test out this surface carving technique on my standard pumpkin. I found that you first want to cut down along the edges, and then if you carve the skin off towards the edge, you'll end up with these nice straight lines. And I've made 2 rectangles of different depths, but this didn't seem to have an impact on the brightness. So I'm just going to go with the more shallow cuts because they're easier to make, which means I can be more precise. And if the light doesn't shine through enough, I'm just going to scrape away the inside of the pumpkin to make the walls thinner until I get a brightness that I'm happy with. No more stalling now. It's time for the real thing. And I've only got one shot at this, so no pressure. I started cutting down following the outlines of the drawing, and it was really helpful to have the original sketch by my side, because both the liquid that was coming out of the pumpkin and my clumsy hands kept on wiping away the drawing that was on the pumpkin. Once all the outlines were cut, I wiped away the ink and it was time to start carving. This was pretty stressful because it was like performing surgery with a hammer. I mean, I could have really used some of those professional carving tools. But the more I scraped away, the better I got. And towards the end, it even became quite meditative and relaxing. Once I carved off all the skin, I put a light in the pumpkin to see the fruit of over 2 hours of labor. And there was no light. So I carved away the inside of the pumpkin to make it thinner, and I put the light in again to see the effect. And I did this a few times until I got the glow I was happy with. I then did some final carving passes to kind of clean up some of the details, and this is the final result. How cool is this? I mean, the whole concept of having a pumpkin without holes really intrigued me, but the result is so good, and I think the drawing turned out so much better than I could have expected. So yeah, I think for a first time doing surface carving, that is pretty darn good. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more stuff like this, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!